Welcome to the Physical Product Movement, a podcast by Fiddle. We share stories of the world's most ambitious and exciting physical product brands to help you capitalize on the monumental change in how, why, and where consumers buy. I'm your host, Ken Ojuka. All right. Hey, Laurel, welcome to the show. I appreciate you jumping on and being willing to share with us.
So excited to be here. Thank you, Ken.
All right. Well, let's just kick it off the way we always do. We just want to hear a quote, something that inspires you and gets you out of bed in the morning.
This is the first quote that popped into my head when you asked, and it is, "Life is what happens while you're busy making other plans." I don't know if you know whose quote that is, but it is from John Lennon. And I think it could be, couldn't be more true of kind of my life journey of what brought me to Nashville and my journey of what helped me start Daily Crunch Snacks.
Okay. I love it. Yeah. I have heard that quote. I forgot that John Lennon had said it. But it's so true. It's so true. And I think it's true in my life too. Let's just hear just a little bit about your background. You have a pretty interesting background, and we want to kind of hear how you found your way to CPG products.
Yeah. So I came from media strategy background where I worked at for companies like Hasbro, Diageo, Bailey's Liqueur. And then for 13 years, I worked on the Unilever business. So Unilever has flagship brands like the Dove campaign for Real Beauty. Mm-hmm. I worked also on Hellmann's mayonnaise. I know more about mayonnaise than the average consumer should know about mayo.
That's a good party topic.
Oh my gosh. They had their 100-year Hellmann's mayonnaise anniversary at the Unilever cafeteria like 10 years ago. And everything had mayonnaise in it, like the chocolate cake, the everything. Oh, that God. I just went to town. I remember I had to go home early. I felt so sick. But I also worked on Lipton. Anyway, Unilever kind of gave me that backbone for consumer packaged goods and had me kind of fall in love with consumer products. But I also kind of took a turn when my husband was like, guess what? I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And I thought at the time he was crazy. I loved working in the corporate world. I kind of love knowing what my expectation was with my salary, my benefits, how you climb up the corporate ladder. I just, for me, it's like when I left work, I checked out and I had my separate life from work. Right. And I was like, I would never be an entrepreneur. Like, that sounds crazy. And he's in the real estate business, and his business partners from Tennessee. And we moved to Tennessee, to Nashville for his job, where I was working remote for Unilever when remote was not at that time cool like it is now, post COVID. Right. And it was really difficult for me to keep that momentum of working for this company that, you touch hundreds of and doing it remotely. So that's kind of where I started to take a shift to think about a career change.
Okay. And you're from New Jersey area? Is that right?
Yeah, I am from northern New Jersey in a town called Cresskill near Tenafly, Englewood. I like to say it's 10 miles from the George Washington Bridge, but that's where I grew up in the Northeast.
Okay, got it. And then you lived in Brooklyn for a little bit?
Yeah, I like to say I started on the Upper East Side when I graduated college, and I slowly made my way down to the West Village, and then jumped over to Brooklyn Heights. Which ironically, I'm going to Brooklyn tonight and staying in Brooklyn Heights at one of my friends' apartments as I get ready for the fancy food show, and I'm so excited to go to my old stomping grounds tonight.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Well, just a quick question about that. Making your way over to Unilever, is that something that you always wanted to do? Was that your first job out of college, or, how did you actually end up there?
Yeah. I worked on other brands and accounts on the media strategy side, but Unilever was different. They really taught me the building blocks of kind of the different phases that you needed to launch a brand. And you could really implement these phases into a brand with like $1,000 budget or a brand with $100 million budget, like those budgets that we saw on Dove. It's so important that you go through each phase and each step. So when we were getting ready to launch a new brand, like I helped bring Dove Men Plus Care into the US market on the media side. And you have to go through all that pre-launch phase of your targeting work. Who is your target? Understanding your consumer touch points, your consumer's journey to buy the product, that path to purchase, the costs, there's so much that goes into the pre-launch. I mean, I wasn't on the packaging side where I actually had to, help work on the design of the packaging like it is on, as an entrepreneur on Daily Crunch Snacks.
Right.
But there's so many things that go into the pre-launch that if you don't get it right and take that time to work on it, you're going to fail as a brand when you launch.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's talk about sort of that transition to you were at Unilever, you were maybe looking at a career change. What led you to land on Daily Crunch Snacks, and maybe we should preface this with just telling us a little bit about what Daily Crunch Snacks is and what you guys sell, and then tell us how you got to it.
Yeah, so Daily Crunch Snacks is a sprouted nut snack company. It is basically my Aunt Diane learned the process in India over 18 years ago, where there's something different about her almonds, cashews, walnuts. They're lighter, airier, crunchier than anything I ever tried in the US market. And Diane was just gifting out snacks to friends and family. And I was just used to, whenever I saw her, she'd give us a bag of these nuts, and my family, we just devour them. Like I don't just eat like raw almonds. I usually go for this bag of Doritos, but there's something with her product that like tasted good, but was also really satisfying. I feel like there's so many products in the market that are so healthy, but like they kind of taste like air. And then I get hungry like an hour later. They left me very kind of satisfied, where I didn't feel like I just, was still hungry. And after a few years of working remotely for my job in New York, I, had my third child, and I just realized that I needed to make a change for myself. And I think it's so important that whoever's in your life that you kind of work with them to get that, to work with them to get that, approval. So at that time I said to my husband, I said, I think I need to just leave my corporate job. I don't know what my next step is. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to lead me to another corporate job or if I need to take some indefinite time off, but I don't know what that is. And he kind of gave me his blessing, which was really important at that time.
Yeah. Why do you think it was so
knowing
important,
that my husband kind of had so I think that, we're a team, and obviously, at that time, like all of our health benefits and everything was going through me.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed, him to feel like, knowing that there wasn't going to be that pressure on me of like, you need to get a job, a job again ASAP or this or that, where he was just kind of like, I get it. This is your time to take a break and really figure out what you want to do. And you don't know how long it's going to take, and that's okay. And for him to be okay with that didn't make me feel kind of pigeonholed of that I'm going to have to get another corporate job here in Nashville that maybe I wasn't going to be happy at or wasn't going to be the right fit for me. Because at the end of the day, if you don't do something that you enjoy, why are you doing it?
Right.
So it was the first time, Ken, in my career that I felt really vulnerable. I felt like so much of who I was identified with my job and my career. Everybody knows, the Dove campaign for real beauty. It's me, it's one of the most high known, ad campaigns in the world, that all of a sudden it's like I didn't have anything to identify with. And I really needed to figure that out and do it the right way. And I did a lot of career soul searching. I did a lot of interviews here and started to whittle down kind of what I did like, what I didn't like. And I kept on going back to Diane's products. And I was like, she really has something here. Huh. She has a product that's not in the mainstream market, and it's so different and it's so good. And I have this consumer packaged background. I called Diane, my aunt, on a whim. I was like, Diane, I know this may sound a little out there, and it's okay to say no, or, but I love your products. Do you want to become business partners and launch your sprouted nut snacks as something as like a real packaged goods product in like the Whole Foods of the world? And she said, Laurel, I've been looking for a sign. Let's do this. And it was like, it was amazing. And then we immediately started our pre-launch phase.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you've touched on a couple things that I just wanted to highlight. First of all, your point about needing your husband to be on board, with you doing this, making this move, and that starting a new business, a venture like this, it's not just a part-time job. It ends up being a more than full-time job, and it's consuming, and it's very, very hard, right? And it's only made harder if you don't have the support of your spouse or your partner, and if it causes friction, in a marriage or in a relationship. So it's just really important to make sure that you're on the same page. And I felt that myself as I've started different businesses. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's critical, because it's just, if they're not on your side from the beginning, it's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much stress and just energy that needs to go into this new venture, and it's hard to do it without the support of your spouse or partner. Go ahead.
You're also talking about it all the time. So I tell myself, like, I just can't. And he's like, my husband's giving me feedback and support, and if he was against it or didn't like my idea or didn't back me, it would just be difficult.
Yeah, I had a situation where I'd started a business, and then, it was taking a while to get going. Let's just say that. And, I was exploring other options, and, I won't go into too much detail, but one of the things that I realized when I took that to my wife, and, she saw that I was looking to hit the eject button, is that she actually got a little upset with me and just sort of, are we committed to this or not? And that made me realize that, like, not only was she on board, and 100% committed to this, but in some ways she was even more committed than I was. Right. And, and I was always grateful to have that support, because I know that, I know other entrepreneurs who don't have that, and I think it makes it really, really difficult to get something off the ground.
Ken, you've raised such a good point. And for people listening, there have been so many times where I've come home and I just feel like gutted. Maybe it's you put so much into launching a product or a brand. And my whole philosophy has always been 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You're not going to win at everything. You're going to have a lot of failures. You just got to keep on going. And sometimes, sometimes you get a bunch of wins and it's so exciting. And then sometimes you get these setbacks. And for me to come home and just, say to my husband, like, there are many times where I've said to him, why am I doing this? Like, should I really be doing this? And he kind of reassures me and tells me, like, he sees that outside picture of like where we've gone, how we've grown, what our journey has been. And to have him be like, no, like, don't you see what you're doing is amazing? Don't you see, like, and just getting his backing and having him be a cheerleader, it's invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah. The other point that I wanted to point out was how you actually searched for an idea. It seems like you kind of stuck to what you knew and what was around you, right? You knew the CPG world already. You had that experience. So it's not like you were trying to start a business in something that you just were not familiar with at all. What would you say to other entrepreneurs who are, interested in launching a CPG brand, and are looking for, okay, what should that product be? Any lessons from the way that you did it?
Yeah, I mean, you touch on another great point. So I was just at the Unify trade show at Mohegan Sun, and yes, I did play a game of poker. It was, I was speaking to the founder of Sweet Nothings. They have these incredible frozen smoothie lines. I'm sure I'm saying it incorrectly of their brand, but it tastes great. Anyway, for him, he did it much differently than how we launched the founder. He wanted to start a food brand. And I think he said he looked at the trends and he worked with a food scientist to create something that went along with trends. So that was a very different approach than I took, where I loved a product that already existed that I felt like I could launch as a mainstream product. So my Aunt Diane, who basically just made batches in her commercial kitchen for friends and family and started to grow this following, but she just put it in like a plastic bag with a twisty. But I was like, wow, she has this incredible product. I didn't look at like, does this fit with certain trends that at the time I didn't know it was sprouted and had all these additional health benefits of being more nutrient dense, bioavailable, and easier to digest if it is sprouted, because it sheds something called phytic acid, which contributes to making all those attributes. Mm-hmm. But also there's the con that an almond is expensive. It's a commodity. And maybe some people who didn't have a product who want to go into CPG probably wouldn't use nuts as like their number one ingredient because it's expensive. So there's many ways to kind of skin the cat of how you launch a product. But I think there's many variables to go into the success of a product. I don't think it's just having like a brand that checks off all the trends. I think, you have to know that can you survive past those trends when they change? Right. Is your packaging going to speak for itself? I always look at Boom Chicka Pop. It's just popcorn in a bag, but their bag is so breakthrough. I go to Costco and everybody has a freaking purple bag of that purple Boom Chicka Pop, but it tastes exactly the same of any other kettle corn. Maybe they've changed a few things out with their ingredients. Maybe their tea would disagree with me on this, but I think there's a lot of other variables that go into it, but you have to figure out kind of what's most important to you. But at the end of the day, like, my old boss said this, who's now the CMO of Colgate. She's like, above all else, you have a fiduciary responsibility to your investors. You can win all the awards, you can do all this other stuff. But if you're not making money, or if you don't see kind of an end road, when I say making money, like that, let's be clear, like most CPG brands have a burn rate and aren't making money, but to get your margins into place and have control of your financials and have that roadmap, like nothing else matters if you can't get that organized.
Right. And in fact, you can have the most worthwhile mission right? But you won't be able to implement that mission or act on that mission if you can't make money with your company and stay in business, right?
Yeah.
No, no, that's interesting, and I think you bring up a good point. There's many ways to skin a cat, right? And your approach to it, where you kind of looked at this product that had been in your life for a while and that you knew very well, and stayed in an industry that you understood, the CPG industry, and kind of could leverage your background. That's one approach. When you were explaining that other brand and how they looked at trends and things like that, I actually thought of Amazon and sort of the Jeff Bezos story of how famously he put together a spreadsheet of, potential things that he could sell online. And he was very analytical about it, and even the whole premise of launching Amazon was a huge trend that he saw, and he saw some sort of growth number about how big the internet was getting and how fast it was growing. And that was what motivated him to do it. So you're right. I think there's many different ways to do this.
There's no right or, some people will say there is a right or wrong answer, but, for me personally, I needed to get behind a brand that I really believed in, that really resonated with me, because at the end of the day, especially when it comes to investors, like they need to believe not only in the brand, but also the people behind the brand. And, my Aunt Diane, going to get kind of really personal for a second. So her son, George, struggled with mental health. And when he was 20 years old at the University of Michigan, he lost that battle and he commits suicide. And it really kind of shattered not only the campus and the community, but I think it brought a big light to the stigma of mental health and how there's not enough talk about it. There's just not enough. And we knew from the beginning that if we were going to launch this brand, that was going to be our mission. And the fact that I can get behind that, and that was something really personal to me. I just felt like, for me, I felt like this brand was lightning in a bottle. It had everything that I needed to launch it and believe in it. I felt like, this category of the nut snack or salty snacks is a massive category in the United States. I felt like, even though we have all these gut health benefits through our process, when we soak almonds in water, it actually swells in size, creating this hollow center, which gives it this amazing crunch. So I felt like we had this big differentiator with this crunch you crave that's different from a raw roasted almond. So I felt like we can bring people back into this category. We can grow this category, and we can actually get people to move away from maybe their current brand in this category to us. So I felt like we had that backing. I felt like we have our mission, and we have the right people. So I just was like, this is lightning in a bottle. This is the right time. And of course, he launched in March 2020 when COVID hit. That's the story.
Right. Well, just a word about your mission. I'm actually attending a funeral tomorrow of a friend who, did something very similar,
So sorry.
And it's really tough. And what, I guess what I love about that mission is that you're actually talking about something that probably everybody listening to this, has somebody in their life where this has happened, right? It's just that when you look at the statistics, there's no reason that there needs to be so much stigma around this. This is a mental health issue that is, that's touching pretty much everybody's lives, right? And we need to be willing to talk about it and help and support each other through stuff like this. So I love it.
Yeah. And I don't want to get sidetracked, but not like I have enough time for this, but I hosted a mom's action to talk about gun sense with a neighbor 2 weeks ago. And to my shock is, someone from the state of Tennessee came to speak about this. The number one form of deaths of teens in the United States right now is suicide by guns. And I just feel like, when it comes to suicide and mental health, there's just so much more we can do as a community, as a country. But at the end of the day, it has to feel authentic and real to us as a brand. And Diane's story is so moving, and her surviving son and daughter and husband helped start the support network on college campuses to advocate mental health awareness in college campuses. And their surviving son, Sam, is actually hosting a town hall for the support network on June 7th. I don't know, 17th. I'm like, June 7th already passed. And this is what happens when you're flying from trade show to trade show. You don't know what day it is.
Right.
But I was just speaking to my team this morning, and we were talking about our mental health mission and how like it's so critical that we are authentic to talking about mental health. But at the same time, when I worked on the Dove campaign, it's soap, and their whole mission was changing the perception of beauty. So I do think that as a brand, you can talk about these things. You just have to do it the right way.
Right. And when I think about Dove and I actually think when I think about your product, it's you can have a really strong mission, and that keeps you motivated, and that, helps you build a community and reach people. But at the end of the day, your product also has to be really high quality and a fantastic product for the consumer. And, when I think of Dove, I think of that. I think of very high quality soap, that's awesome on its own. And the mission for me is like a bonus, right?
Yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah. So let's talk just a little bit about, we've mentioned, some of these trade shows that you're going to. I want to, just kind of get your idea around trade shows in general, and what, brands, maybe how they can approach it. And, I guess there's probably more than one, recipe for this, but just kind of how you guys are thinking about it, and what you hope to accomplish when you go to a trade show.
Yeah, I mean, I want to preface that there's a lot that I have to learn. I just came off my second trade show ever, well, non-virtual, because we were doing all virtual trade shows.
Mm-hmm.
But my first in-person trade show was at Expo West. But we recently hired a PR person, and she brought to life a lot of what we can do with PR around trade shows. And I'd love to just convey some of those highlights for all those brands listening out there.
Sure. And before you do, so you hadn't attended other trade shows except virtually. Was it primarily because of COVID and that they just weren't being held?
It was only because of COVID, though I was asked by Expo to speak because we got so much out of the virtual show. I spent all night emailing the contacts that I got from the show, and that got us it landed us actually our biggest. So yes, we're in Meyer, but the CVS health hubs, I learned about them from Expo. I emailed them on the virtual platform. And, the whole thing is the squeaky wheel gets it in the end. You can't just email someone once, be like, oh, they never emailed me back. You need to follow up. You need to do your due diligence. You need to figure out your priorities. But CVS formed this health hub of healthy snacks, and they now put us in 3,000 stores.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Across the country against all and that was from the virtual show. I don't think you can't expect them to just come to you. There's so much competition at these shows. You got to reach out, you got to follow up, and you have to know of the 100 people maybe you reach out to, maybe you only hear back from 5, but that's okay. Those 5 are typically amazing contacts and amazing people to start a relationship with. And actually, I met this woman from Good Housekeeping at the virtual show, and I just emailed her yesterday, and I said, are you going to be at Fancy Food? And she is. And she's like, I can't wait to come to your booth and see you in person. And we've just formed this relationship through the virtual show, and now to bring it into real life and meet these people in person is just that much better.
That's great. That's great. A lot of the communication I hear about these virtual shows is that they're not as good. I don't know if it's, even worth it. I don't know what I'm getting from it, but it's nice to hear your experience has been totally different, and it has absolutely been worthwhile.
Yeah. I think some people were like, oh, I created a virtual booth and they'll just find me. And you can't ever expect that, especially as a startup brand, when you have these bigger brands with these bigger budgets who can just pay for all this extra advertising and bells and whistles. You really got to think out of the box. How can you differentiate yourself? And, I think also going into a show, you need to figure out, all right, what are my priorities? Like, we're in the KE Elevate program. We're in the Unify Up Next program, but we're only in specific warehouses in the country. So like, I don't want to start talking to all these stores where we're not in those warehouses, because the truth is we really need to win in these certain markets first before we can start expanding out more. So when we go into these trade shows, I work with my team of like, all right, these are our target markets. These are, our DCs. So, if you meet someone and we're in that DC already, you need to tell them like, hey, we're already in this DC. We're ready to go. It's that much quicker to execute and get things off the ground as grow that market in that DC. So it's really important that you have a strategy for these shows. But we put together a full press release for the Fancy Food Show this Sunday, because we're launching our newest flavor, Cinnamon Java. And I would have never thought to put together a press release, but it was this PR person that I'm working with. And she's like, oh, yeah, we put together a press release. I'm going to put it, and then, we're going to email it out to all of our contacts. And we've already gotten all this press, and people have already posted about us through writing up this press release. So I think that there's just a lot you can do to figure out like, what is your big exciting announcement around a show? Like for us, it's our newest cinnamon Java flavor, but for someone else, it could be a packaging size. It could be, there's so many different things, but what is that? What are those key things you want to communicate from the show? What are those takeaways where when someone goes to your booth and they leave, like what are they leaving with? And for me and my team, we make sure that we speak to everybody. It doesn't matter like who you are. If you're stopping by our booth, we want you to we want you to know our story, and we want to treat everybody the same. But it's important that we get everybody's, contact information so we can follow up with them and stay in touch, because they're seeing so many brands that it's so easy for them to forget you, and you need to do the follow up.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I love what you're saying about having a strategy around the show, and whether that's virtual or not, or in real person. I think that's really important. Can you touch just a little bit more about the element of your strategy of winning in the DCs that you already were in, and kind of just sort of the big picture around that for, listeners who may not be familiar with that?
Yeah. So, a DC, so when you get into a KE or a Unify or any distributor, you have to grow in certain areas of the country, and they have warehouses or DCs in those areas. Every time you open up a warehouse, it's going to cost you money. And if you're not moving at a certain velocity in that warehouse, then they're going to disco you, which means they're going to remove your product from that DC, and they'll probably charge you for that as well. You want to make sure that, if someone who has 5 stores wants to take you in, that's amazing. Every store is amazing. Mm-hmm. Every store is important, but 5 stores is not going to be enough to keep you open in that warehouse. They're going to shut you down. So you have to think of, okay, where are our target consumers? What are our top cities, our markets? So for example, one of our top markets is the Chicago area. We had a lot of direct store markets already there, like Foxtrot, but then we won the Meijer account. An account like Meijer that has like 350 stores can support a warehouse on its own. But when you don't have such a big account like that, it's really important that for us, we're going after the natural channel markets stores right now. Like that's our sweet spot.
Right.
And it's really, kind of like, all right, who else is a natural product store in the Chicago area that can pull from that DC, so they can all pull from the same warehouse, and we can grow that and get that velocity, and then feel confident that we're not going to have any of our SKUs discoed. So that's where, now we have this great relationship with Plum Market. Pete's Fresh Market has like 12 stores in Chicago. They now pull out of that DC. Dom's, which is an amazing store in Chicago. They only have one store, but it's such a critical flagship store. They pull now out of there. So it's like finding them and saying, hey, we're already in there. And, you have to incentivize. If you know that you're going to succeed in a store, it's not just about like getting a store. It's about, okay, this is an amazing store and they're in a market that pulls from our warehouse. And it's a win-win for everybody. And the more stores you start to get in a region, the more consumers sees you, the more touch points you get. So you want to really incentivize those stores to start with you. So for us, we have certain promotions, or BOGOs, buy one, get one, or going to some of these trade shows like Unify or KHE, where you do a special promotion. But, there's so much more to that, which is a whole other topic of kind of supporting the stores. It's we're at a point where we feel like we're in such a great number of stores, and now it's about winning in these stores and nurturing them and building that relationship and with the stores and the customers in our key markets.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. And thanks for going into that. I think it's really educational to a lot of people. And I think that there's sort of the misconception of once you get into a store, it's sort of, the victory, you just won. But really, there's much more that goes into it. And that now you've got to support that store and just stay in there, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and look, everybody said that to me too, Ken. They're like, and I didn't believe them at first. I'm like, we just got into the store. Yes. And no, there's so much relationship building, trust. People don't know who you are and you want them to try you. For us, I really believe that when you try our product, you'll become a repeat purchaser. So trial is so important for us. And now that, thank goodness, demos are open now at these stores where we can demo. People can try the product in a sample bag, and then they can, buy us with a coupon redemption in the store. So then they know where to find us. We feel like that's a great path to purchase. So now they know where we're in the store, they love our product, and then they'll go back and buy us at full price. But you need to have a whole other strategy for when you go into store. And that's kind of like our priority right now. Like that is our biggest focus. We just hired this amazing company called Dirty Hands that is going to be helping us with a lot of our field marketing in stores, making sure that all our products is on shelf, the reordering, the promos. We just hired this incredible demo company for Chicago that's going to demo in all of these stores I just mentioned. So we're really excited just to kind of get that off the ground this summer.
Okay. And was there anything specific that you were looking for in a demo company that could help you with that? And then also with the field marketing, what was sort of your criteria for partnering with these companies?
I have to be honest, like I'm still learning a lot about what I do and don't want, but I don't think we've been taking advantage of couponing. So with our demos, we are going to have coupons available for people to just get off. But we also have these sample bags. It's so important that when we demo, they can take the whole bag with them. So if they can't try it at that point, they have it with them. But also we need the demo company to understand like who we are as a brand and what differentiates us. For us, we are a premium product. We are going to be more expensive from the blue diamonds, and it's always going to be that way. But we need them to know that like we work with a sustainable almond farm. We're steam pasteurized almonds. We don't use chemicals on our almonds. We are starting a huge effort with our almond farm for bee pollination efforts. So they are a bee friendly certified farm, which helps repollinate the bees. And, for them to for consumers to kind of know all about that, we only use clean ingredients. There's nothing going to be on the back of the packaging that they can't pronounce, that it's just kind of clean, that, our big differentiation of we are that crunch you crave made clean. So for consumers to be able to walk away and understand, okay, Daily Crunch, got it. Like their almonds are crunchier than raw roasted almonds. Okay, their ingredients on here are all really clean. They have superfoods and all of their different flavors. For our golden goodness flavor, we use turmeric and we use a pinch of black pepper to activate the nutritional benefits of the turmeric. Things like that just really make us different. And it's really important that the demo teams are going to be able to convey that. Though I have to say, Ken, it starts with the people behind the brand. So we actually are going to be doing a demo tour ourselves in some of our key markets starting this summer, where we are personally going to be going to all these stores and doing kind of like a thank you demo tour, where we kick off the demos ourselves and then we pass the baton on to some of these demo companies.
Yeah, that's great. And that's probably a good opportunity to build a relationship with each of those stores.
Yeah.
So tell me just a little bit about the cinnamon Java flavor that you guys are launching. How did that come about? Like you mentioned just briefly that it's kind of a unique combination, so how did you decide on this flavor and how did you decide to, I guess, move forward with it?
Yeah. So I'm so excited about this flavor. We soak almonds in coffee for more than 24 hours. And it's this coffee infused almond. Mm-hmm. But the thing is like, while you really get that incredible taste of the coffee and the almond together, we needed to balance this out as a trail mix. So we decided to make this a trail mix, and we added black currants, coconut flakes, cinnamon, sea salt, and sprouted cashews to make it a trail mix. But what's really innovative about this flavor is that it has these coffee infused almonds, and that it's really only these clean ingredients that still make it paleo, gluten-free, keto, all of those kind of bells and whistles, but also just tastes really good and is different than something that you can't get this type of flavor anywhere else. Like, I haven't seen this flavor anywhere else in our competitive set. So for us, it's like, okay, we're sprouted, which differentiates us, but we really also need to have these innovative flavors to also just make us that much more different and compelling to the consumer and all their choices out there.
Okay, awesome. And you said that you're launching that. Is that available now, or where can people find that?
So it is available now on Boxed, GoPuff, Amazon. We are going to be doing a really special Amazon promotion with it for Amazon Prime Day. But we are officially kind of launching this and having this debut at the Fancy Food Show starting Sunday. And I'm just so excited to get people's feedback on this. So far, the feedback has been really receptive, and have our consumers try a new flavor. And I hope they're as excited about it as we are.
Okay, awesome. So one of the things that I think that you've kind of picked up at a couple of these shows, and especially at that Unify show, was just some of the trends that you see happening right now. And I just wanted to take a minute and touch on that. What did you learn?
Yeah, so it's so interesting, Ken. Our CFO, who lives in Connecticut, met us at Mohegan Sun, and he just moved back to the U.S. from living in Nairobi, Kenya for 6 years.
Oh, cool.
So he had very different snacks and foods there. So I think coming back to the U.S., he's kind of re-engaging with how much trends have changed over the past 6 years. And when he was walking the show with me, he was like, "Oh my gosh, Laurel, like, everything is plant-based. Everything is all about, keto and no sugar and this." And, 6 years ago, that would have really differentiated a brand, that you're plant-based and you're keto and this. And now it's not. Now it's just kind of a baseline that, like, it's part of the checklist that you have to have. And you have to be so much more than that to really differentiate yourself in this market. So we're plant-based. Yeah, we're keto, but that's not what differentiates us. What differentiates us is that we have this patent pending 4-day soak, sprout, dehydrate process that not only gives these health benefits of being gut healthy, but also gives us this game-changing texture change where we're super crunchy. And that's kind of like our sweet spot that we're focusing on. There's so many brands I see, Ken, that like have these incredible stories. Like I was listening to this podcast the other day about someone who actually used to work at Unilever who started this drink, and she gave her pitch. And I was like, wow, this product sounds amazing and it hydrates so well. I mean, I'm not going to name the product because I actually have a negative review about it, but I ordered it. I was so excited to try it. And like, it tasted like soap. And my husband was like, oh my gosh, this tastes like soap. And I was like, it checks off all those bells and whistles of being healthy and this and that, but it doesn't taste good. So at the end of the day, also, like, you can have all those things that people want right now, but if you don't taste good, no one's going to buy you again. Right. And no one's going to try your other flavors. So for us, it's like we have these 6 flavors, and this is our focus right now. We have these 6 flavors that we're obsessed with, that we believe in, and we want people to try it before we start to expand out in other flavors and other categories. But it was just interesting to see all the trends at Unify, which I'm sure we'll see at Fancy Food as well.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for sharing on that. I think that's very helpful to the listener. Well, let's wrap up. I know we've been going for a while. Let's jump into the quick fire round. I've just got 4 quick questions for you, and then we can close. What's one tool or resource that you feel has helped you the most in your current career?
Honestly, getting the data from KE Connect. We just started working with Crisp, where it pulls all of our data from all our stores, all of our distributors, and we can see key insights in real time. Data tells the story. If you're not getting your data and getting the story, like, you're missing out on your key takeaways and how to action on the next steps. That's great.
What's one book that you could recommend to the audience?
I just finished my book club book, even though I missed my book club last night because I was at the Unify show, The Paper Palace. It was so good. I highly recommend it. It's a great airport read when you're flying to all these trade shows.
Okay. And what is one piece of advice that you would give your 21-year-old self?
Yeah. You know what? Honestly, it's that failure is okay. I was at a Vanderbilt accelerator today where these 50 students presented their case studies about Daily Crunch. And this one girl just kind of froze up there. I think she was maybe 19. She just kind of got so scared to present, and she just started crying. And I wanted to tell her, like, it's okay. Like, this is all part of the journey. It's okay to fail at things. If you don't fail, you can't move forward. If you don't fail, you can't succeed. And it's okay. Just move on and know it's okay.
Yeah. If you don't fail, you're probably not trying hard enough.
That's great. Great tagline.
What is one person in your field of work that you would love to take to lunch? Not take to work. Somebody that you'd love to take to lunch.
Well, someone who I've always wanted to speak to, and I would still want to take to lunch, is the founder of Olipop. I've been following their story forever, and I actually just had a call with him a few weeks ago about something separate, about something we were doing. And I just love their story and their growth and like what they've done, and just like listening to what they've done, over the past few years to get where they are now. I just ordered their new flavor that my kids devoured already, their banana cream. But yeah, I'd love to take them to lunch, and I think that would be great.
Okay, that's cool.
Ben and David.
What, just as we wrap up here, obviously, Laurel, anybody listening to this can hear your passion and your authenticity, your empathy, for other founders and people trying to do something difficult and bring something to life. What advice would you give to somebody who's in the grind right now, trying to do this? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I think, it's so important that you don't just listen to friends and family and what their opinions are. You really need to go out there and listen to what your key consumers are saying about your brand, to really get those insights to find out, is your brand something that has legs? Everyone's going to have opinions. Everyone's going to have something to say. And you really need to focus on, who you think you are as a brand, and who you think your target is and talk to them to get those key takeaways and not just friends and family.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, and that's a good point to end on. Hey, I appreciate you taking the time today. This has been fantastic. Thank you.
Ken, it was so enjoyable. I feel like the time flew by. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and good luck at the show. That sounds awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
The Physical Product Movement podcast is brought to you by Fiddle. To find out more about Fiddle and how our industry-leading inventory ops platform is giving modern brands and manufacturers full visibility into their inventory and operations, visit fiddle.io, and then make sure to search for Physical Product Movement in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Fiddle, thanks for listening.